The mistaken signal. The dying world. The twin suns of Kepler 442 burned with unnatural fury as they spiraled toward their final embrace. On the third planet of this doomed system, a world the inhabitants called Zaphiran, billions of sentient beings watched their skies grow brighter each day. The binary stars, once stable companions dancing through space for millions of years, had begun their death spiral. In less than 18 months, they would collide in a catastrophic merger that would sterilize every world in the system. Commander Zelith stood on the observation deck of the planetary communications array, her translucent blue skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed her anxiety. As the chief communications officer of Zaphiran, she had spent the last 3 months preparing for this moment. The massive transmitter behind her hummed with barely contained energy, ready to send their desperate plea across the galaxy. The Zaphirans were an ancient race, their civilization spanning over 50,000 years. They had explored nearby star systems, established colonies, and maintained peaceful relations with dozens of species. But they had never possessed the technology for true interstellar travel on the scale needed for a complete planetary evacuation. For that, they would need help from their oldest allies. "Commander, the array is at full power," reported technical specialist Corvain, his 6 arms moving gracefully across the control surfaces. "All channels are aligned with the quantum resonance frequencies. We're ready to transmit." Zelith nodded, her large, multifaceted eyes reflecting the growing light of the dying stars outside. "Have you triple-checked the coordinates for the Ethereal Collective's home system?" "Yes, Commander. The ancient star charts have been verified against our most recent astronomical data. The signal will reach the ethereal nexus in approximately 47 standard cycles." The Ethereal Collective. Zelith had never seen them in person, but the historical records were clear. Tall, crystalline beings of pure energy, masters of space and time itself. They had visited Zaphiran millennia ago, sharing knowledge and establishing trade agreements. Most importantly, they possessed technology that could move entire populations across interstellar distances in a matter of days. If anyone could save the Zaphiran people, it was them. "Broadcast the message," Zelith commanded. The transmission began, carrying with it the hopes of 7 billion souls. The message contained everything: their history, their culture, their scientific achievements, and most urgently, their desperate need for evacuation assistance. The signal burst forth from the array with tremendous power, racing across the void at faster-than-light speeds through quantum channels. What Zelith and her team didn't know was that a massive solar flare from their dying binary stars had created quantum interference patterns throughout local space. The carefully aimed transmission, meant to follow ancient trade routes to the Ethereal Collective, was deflected by these invisible distortions. Like light bending through a prism, their cry for help was redirected toward a completely different region of the galaxy. An unexpected receiver. Dr. Sarah Chen was 3 hours into her night shift at the Arecibo Uhui Deep Space Monitoring Station when the universe changed forever. The massive radio telescope array, built in the mountains of Chile, had been scanning the cosmos for signs of intelligent life for over 2 decades. Sarah had joined the SETI program after completing her doctorate in xenolinguistics, driven by humanity's ancient dream of finding others among the stars. At 34, Sarah had experienced her share of false alarms. Pulsars that initially seemed artificial, cosmic phenomena that mimicked technological signatures, and the occasional equipment malfunction that created phantom signals. She had learned to approach each anomaly with scientific skepticism while nurturing a deep hope that someday the signal would be real. The computer alert that shattered the quiet of the observation room was unlike anything she had ever heard. The monitoring system's artificial intelligence, designed to recognize patterns in cosmic noise, was practically screaming for attention. Sarah's coffee mug clattered to the floor as she spun toward her workstation. "Oh my God," she whispered, her hands trembling as data flooded across multiple screens. The signal was structured, complex, and undeniably artificial. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and what appeared to be linguistic patterns streamed through the receivers. This wasn't the random chatter of a pulsar or the echo of some distant cosmic collision. This was intelligent communication, and it was directed, powerful, and filled with urgency. Sarah's training kicked in as she began recording everything and running preliminary analysis programs. Within minutes, she had confirmed what her instincts already knew. Humanity was not alone, and someone out there was trying to communicate. Her hands shook as she reached for the emergency contact protocols. Within an hour, the small observation facility was swarming with government officials, military personnel, and the world's leading experts in linguistics, astronomy, and xenobiology. The signal strength suggests incredible transmission power, explained Dr. James Rodriguez, the facility's director, as he briefed the assembled team. Whatever sent this message had access to technology far beyond our current capabilities. Sarah stood before the gathered experts, her presentation displaying the preliminary analysis. The mathematical components are clear universal concepts. But there's something else. The signal contains what appears to be star charts, biological data, and she paused, double-checking her work, what I believe are distress indicators. General Patricia Morrison, representing the newly formed Earth Defense Initiative, leaned forward. You're saying this is a Mayday call? That's exactly what I'm saying, Sarah replied. The repetition patterns, the urgency markers, the inclusion of what appears to be population data, and time-critical astronomical information. Someone out there is in serious trouble. The room erupted in discussion as the implications sank in. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for generations, but they had always imagined it would be explorers or ambassadors who made contact first. Instead, they were being asked to be rescuers. The global response. Within 72 hours of Dr. Chen's discovery, the world had transformed. The revelation that intelligent alien life not only existed, but was actively seeking help created an unprecedented global response. Ancient rivalries were set aside as nations united under the banner of interstellar humanitarian aid. The United Nations Emergency Assembly convened in New York, with every member nation sending their highest-ranking officials. President Rebecca Martins of the Americas Federation addressed the assembly with words that would be remembered throughout human history. Fellow citizens of Earth, she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the planet through live broadcasts. Today we face a choice that will define our species for generations to come. We have received a call for help from across the stars. We don't know who sent it. We don't know exactly where they are, but we know they are facing extinction. The question before us is simple. What kind of species do we want to be? The vote was unanimous. Operation Stellar Mercy was approved with an initial budget that dwarfed the combined space programs of the previous century. Every spacefaring nation contributed resources, personnel, and technology. Private companies redirected their entire production capabilities toward the mission. Universities around the world collaborated on crash programs to develop the necessary technologies for interstellar travel and xenobiological support. Dr. Chen found herself appointed as the chief xenolinguist for the mission, working around the clock to decode more of the alien transmission. As the weeks passed, she began to understand fragments of their language, their numbering systems, and most importantly, their desperate timeline. The astronomical data they've included is terrifying. She reported to the mission commanders 6 weeks after first contact. Their star system is undergoing binary collapse. They have less than 18 months before their world becomes uninhabitable. Admiral Michael Torres, selected to command the rescue fleet, studied the projections with growing concern. And how long will it take us to reach them? Based on our new faster-than-light drive systems, approximately 14 months, replied Dr. Elizabeth Park, the mission's chief engineer. We're pushing the technology far beyond tested parameters, but it's our only option. The rescue fleet that assembled in Earth orbit was humanity's greatest technological achievement. 12 massive vessels, each capable of carrying hundreds of thousands of refugees, accompanied by support ships, medical facilities, and defensive escorts. The lead vessel, christened the UES Compassion, would carry the first contact team and serve as the fleet's command center. The long journey. As the fleet prepared for departure, Sarah stood in the observation lounge of the Compassion, looking out at Earth one final time. The blue marble that had been humanity's entire universe for millennia now seemed small compared to the vast responsibility they were undertaking. Second thoughts, Doctor. Admiral Torres joined her at the viewing port, his weathered face reflecting years of military service and the weight of command. Not about the mission, Sarah replied, but I keep wondering about something. This message, it wasn't addressed to us. The linguistic patterns suggest they were trying to contact someone else, some species they call the ethereal collective. What if we're not what they're expecting? Torres nodded thoughtfully. I've had the same concern, but we're what they're getting. Sometimes the universe has a way of putting the right people in the right place at the right time, even if it wasn't part of the original plan. The departure was broadcast worldwide, as billions of humans watched their species take its first steps as interstellar neighbors. The massive engines of the fleet ignited simultaneously, and 12 ships carrying the hopes of 2 civilizations disappeared into the void between stars. The journey to the Zaphiran system would test every system, every crew member, and every technological innovation humanity had ever developed. Sleep cycles were adjusted to match the estimated Zaphiran day-night cycle. Medical bays were reconfigured to handle unknown alien physiologies. Most importantly, Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to improve their understanding of Zaphiran language and culture. I managed to decode about 60% of their linguistic structure, Sarah reported during one of the daily briefings. They're a highly advanced species with a complex social structure. But there's something else. They keep referencing these ethereal collective beings with what appears to be reverence and expectation. I think they're counting on these aliens to save them. And we have no idea who these ethereals are or where they might be, asked Torres. None whatsoever. As far as we can tell, the Zaphirians haven't had contact with them for thousands of years. They're operating on faith and ancient promises. As the months passed, and the fleet drew closer to its destination, long-range sensors began to pick up details of the Zaphiran system. The binary stars were indeed in their final death spiral, their gravitational dance growing tighter with each passing day. The third planet showed signs of massive technological infrastructure and billions of life signs, but also indications of systematic evacuation to outer system colonies. They're not waiting for rescue, observed Dr. Park as she studied the sensor data. They're trying to save themselves. Good, Torres replied. That shows they're survivors. It also means they'll be ready to work with us when we arrive. What none of them could predict was the shock that awaited both species when humanity's rescue fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zaphiran system, and 2 civilizations faced each other across the void, neither being what the other had expected. First contact and revelation. Arrival at the dying system. The UES Compassion shuddered as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Torres gripped his command chair as the ship's artificial gravity struggled to compensate for the sudden transition back to normal space. Around him, the bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, their instruments coming alive with data from their destination. Long-range sensors are confirming the astronomical projections, reported Commander Lisa Park from the science station. Binary collapse is accelerating. The stars are showing massive coronal mass ejections and gravitational distortions. Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside the main view screen, her heart racing as she witnessed the first visual confirmation of an alien star system. The twin suns blazed with unnatural brightness, their death throes visible even from the outer system. Between them and the fleet, she could see the faint gleam of the third planet, home to billions of alien souls. Any response to our approach signals? Torres asked. Yes, sir, replied Communications Officer Janet Walsh. We're receiving the structured response using the mathematical protocols Dr. Chen developed. It's They sound surprised. Sarah moved to the communication station, donning her translation headset. Put it through the linguistic matrix. The bridge fell silent as synthesized sounds filled the air, the computer's best attempt at reproducing alien speech patterns. Through her headset, Sarah heard the translation in real time. Unknown vessels, identify yourselves. Your ship configurations do not match ethereal collective designs. State your intentions in this system. Sarah exchanged a worried glance with Admiral Torres. This was the moment she had been dreading. She activated the response transmitter, speaking slowly and clearly while her words were converted into mathematical concepts and broadcast toward the planet. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of the United Earth Federation vessel Compassion. We are humans from the planet Earth. We received your distress signal and have come to provide evacuation assistance. The response took several minutes to arrive, and when it did, the confusion in the alien voice was unmistakable. Humans. Earth? These designations are not in our records. You are not the ethereal collective. How did you receive our transmission? The revelation. 3 hours later, Admiral Torres and Dr. Chen sat across from a holographic projection of Commander Zelith in the Compassion's conference room. The alien's bioluminescent patterns flickered rapidly. A sign Sarah had learned indicated distress or confusion. Let me understand this correctly, Zelith said through the translation system. You are a species we have never encountered, from a star system 47 light-years away. You intercepted our message to the ethereal collective by accident, and you have traveled here to provide assistance. That's correct, Torres replied. We understand this isn't what you were expecting, but we're here to help in any way we can. Zelith's patterns shifted to what Sarah recognized as skeptical disbelief. Your species possesses interstellar travel capabilities and the resources to mount a rescue operation for an unknown alien civilization. We developed the technology specifically for this mission, Sarah explained. When we received your distress signal, our entire planet united to help. We've brought 12 ships capable of evacuating millions of your people. Millions, Zelith repeated flatly. Dr. Chen, our planetary population exceeds 7 billion individuals. Our outer system colonies can support perhaps 2 billion temporarily. Even with your assistance, we cannot save everyone. The weight of that statement settled over the human delegation like a crushing burden. They had crossed interstellar space with humanity's greatest rescue fleet, and it wouldn't be enough. Then we save who we can, Torres said firmly, and we work together to find solutions for the rest. You mentioned the ethereal collective. Are they still a possibility? Zelith's patterns dimmed. We have had no contact with them for over 3,000 years. The message we sent was based on ancient coordinates and protocols. Even if they received it, they may no longer consider themselves bound by old agreements. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Commander Zelith, what exactly are the ethereal collective? What kind of technology do they possess? According to our historical records, they are beings of pure energy who have transcended physical form. They possess the ability to manipulate space-time itself, to move matter across vast distances instantaneously. If they chose to help, they could relocate our entire population to a new world in a matter of days. And if they don't? Torres asked. Then we face extinction with dignity, saving those we can and preserving what knowledge possible for future discovery. Working together. Despite the revelation that humanity was not their intended rescuers, the Zaphirians proved remarkably adaptable. Within days of first contact, joint operation centers were established both in orbit and on the planet's surface. Human engineers worked alongside Zaphirian technicians to modify Earth's transport ships for alien physiologies, while Zaphirian scientists shared their advanced materials technology to improve human vessel efficiency. Sarah found herself serving as the primary liaison between the species, spending her days on the planet's surface coordinating evacuation priorities. The Zaphirian cities were marvels of organic architecture, their buildings grown rather than constructed, rising like crystalline trees toward the increasingly violent sky. Your species adapts quickly, observed Corvain. the technical specialist who had become Sarah's primary Zaphiran counterpart. Most civilizations require generations to accept new paradigms. Humans seem to thrive on change. Sarah smiled as she watched human and Zaphiran children playing together in one of the evacuation centers, their laughter universal despite their different forms. We're good in a crisis. It's the boring times that give us trouble. The evacuation proceeded with remarkable efficiency. Human transport ships, their cargo holds reconfigured with Zaphiran life support systems, ferried hundreds of thousands of refugees to the outer colonies. Zaphiran vessels, supplemented by human escort ships, carried supplies and equipment to establish temporary settlements. But even as they worked together, long-range sensors brought increasingly dire news. The binary collapse was accelerating beyond all projections. Instead of 18 months, they might have as little as 8 months before the system became uninhabitable. The hostile arrival. It was Dr. Chen who first noticed the anomalous sensor readings during one of her regular communications with the fleet. She was reviewing evacuation statistics in the Surface Command Center when alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Commander Zelith called out as Zaphiran sensor operator, "We're detecting multiple unidentified vessels entering the outer system. Configuration suggests Saurian designs." Zelith's bioluminescent patterns flashed to angry red. The Saurian hegemony. Scavengers and slavers. Sarah felt her blood chill. They're hostile. Extremely. The Saurians have been our enemies for centuries. They must have detected the unusual activity in our system and come to investigate. Zelith activated the emergency communications. All human vessels. This is Zaphiran Command. We have incoming hostiles. Please advise your fleet commander immediately. Admiral Torres' voice crackled through the communicator within minutes. "Dr. Chen, what's the situation down there?" "We've got company, Admiral. A species called the Saurian hegemony. According to the Zaphirians, they're not the welcoming committee." "Understood. We're tracking 15 vessels, battleship class, moving fast toward the inner system. They've ignored all attempts at communication." Zelith joined the conversation. "Admiral Torres, the Saurians will see our evacuation as an opportunity. They'll attempt to capture both our people and your ships. Your technology would be invaluable to them." "Then we don't let them have it," Torres replied grimly. "How quickly can we accelerate the evacuation?" "Not quickly enough," Sarah said, studying the logistics displays. "We need at least 4 more months to evacuate the priority populations, and that's assuming everything goes perfectly." The situation became clear to everyone simultaneously. They were facing a 3-way crisis: the dying stars, an incomplete evacuation, and now a hostile alien force that saw opportunity in their desperation. The alliance forged in fire. The first Saurian attack came without warning. 3 of their vessels broke formation and fired on a convoy of Zaphiran transports fleeing toward the outer colonies. Only the quick intervention of the human escort destroyer UES Valiant prevented a massacre, though the human ship was severely damaged in the engagement. In the aftermath, Admiral Torres and Commander Zelith stood together in the Joint Command Center, watching tactical displays that showed the Saurian fleet taking position to blockade the evacuation routes. "They're not trying to destroy us," Torres observed. "They're hurting us." "Classic Saurian tactics," Zelith agreed. "They want to capture as many ships and people as possible. Dead slaves are worthless to them." Sarah looked up from her analysis station. "What if we gave them what they think they want?" Both commanders turned to her with puzzled expressions. "They're expecting us to run, right? To panic and scatter. What if instead we coordinated a joint operation? Human military vessels providing cover while Zaphiran ships used their superior knowledge of local space to outmaneuver them." Torres smiled grimly. "You're suggesting we fight together. I'm suggesting we think together. Humans are good at adapting quickly and taking risks. Zaphirians are good at long-term planning and have 3,000 years more experience in space. Between us, we might just be more than the sum of our parts." What followed was humanity's first joint military operation with an alien species. Human ships, with their advanced weapon systems and shielding technology, provided heavy support and drew Saurian attention. Zaphiran vessels, using their intimate knowledge of stellar phenomena and local gravitational fields, executed complex maneuvers that allowed evacuation ships to escape through seemingly impossible routes. The battle lasted for 3 days and nights, with skirmishes throughout the system as the Allied forces protected fleeing civilians. The Saurians, expecting easy prey, found themselves facing a coordinated defense that adapted faster than their tactical computers could calculate. On the third day, as Sarah watched human and Zaphiran crews working side by side in the command center, she realized something profound had occurred. Two species that had never met before had not only learned to communicate and cooperate, but had forged something deeper: trust. "Admiral," reported Commander Park from the tactical station, "the remaining Saurian vessels are withdrawing. They're heading back toward the outer system boundary." Torres nodded, but his expression remained serious. "They'll be back. And next time, they'll come with more ships and better preparation." Zelith's patterns displayed determination mixed with hope. "Then we must be ready for them. Together." As the immediate crisis passed, Sarah looked out at the dying binary stars that had brought two species together through a cosmic accident. What had begun as a wrong number had become something neither species could have achieved alone. A partnership forged in desperation, strengthened by conflict, and tempered by the shared understanding that sometimes the universe put exactly the right people in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. The evacuation continued, now as a joint operation between two species who had learned that the greatest strength in the universe wasn't advanced technology or superior firepower, but the willingness to stand together when everything was at stake. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, their combined distress signal continued to propagate through space, carrying a new message: humanity and the Zaphirans, united against extinction, calling out to any who might hear that they would not surrender to the darkness without a fight.